Ron had always considered himself a rational and level-headed person. He wasn't one to easily succumb to fear or superstition. However, the creaky old house he had recently moved into harbored a secret that would challenge even his staunch skepticism. It all began with the unsettling noises emanating from the basement. The first night in the house was uneventful. Ron spent his time unpacking boxes and arranging furniture, trying to make the place feel more like home. As the clock ticked past midnight, he decided to call it a night and head to bed. Just as he was about to doze off, he heard a faint sound, like footsteps echoing from the depths below. At first, Ron dismissed it as the usual settling noises old houses tend to make. However, as the nights passed, the sounds grew more distinct and ominous. Whispers and soft thuds became a regular occurrence, causing Ron to question his initial skepticism. One night, unable to ignore the eerie sounds any longer, he mustered the courage to investigate. The basement door, rusty and heavy, protested as Ron pushed it open. The stairs creaked under his weight as he descended into the dimly lit abyss. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness that sent shivers down his spine. Ron flicked on the basement light, revealing a space cluttered with dusty old furniture and forgotten relics from the past. As he scanned the room, Ron's eyes fixated on an old mirror standing in the corner. Its ornate frame seemed out of place among the neglected items scattered around. As he approached the mirror, he caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure standing behind him. Heart pounding, he turned around only to find emptiness. The basement seemed to come alive with an otherworldly energy that Ron couldn't comprehend. Terrified yet compelled to unravel the mystery, Ron decided to delve deeper into the history of the house. He discovered that the previous owners had abruptly vacated the property, leaving no explanation for their sudden departure. Rumors circulated in the town about strange occurrences and inexplicable events tied to the house. Ron couldn't shake the feeling that the basement held the key to the unsettling puzzle that now consumed his thoughts. Haunted by the mysterious happenings in the basement, Ron continued his quest for answers. He spent hours researching the history of the house, combing through old newspaper archives, and talking to the few neighbors who would speak about the property's dark reputation. One day, an elderly neighbor named Mrs. Turner reluctantly shared a chilling tale about the house. According to her, decades ago, a family had lived there and fallen victim to a tragedy that left the entire town in shock. The youngest daughter, Emily, had disappeared without a trace. The distraught family had searched the house and the surrounding area tirelessly, but found no sign of her. Mrs. Turner's eyes grew somber as she revealed that the basement had been Emily's favorite hiding spot during games of hide and seek. The family, desperate to find any clues about her disappearance, had scoured every inch of the basement, but Emily was never found. The family eventually moved away, leaving the house tainted with the unsolved mystery. Determined to put an end to the ominous occurrences, Ron decided to enlist the help of a paranormal investigator. The investigator, a seasoned professional named Dr. Helen Simmons, arrived with an array of sophisticated equipment to analyze the supernatural energy that seemed to linger in the house. As Dr. Simmons explored the basement, her equipment began to register unusual readings. Cold spots, unexplained shadows, and faint whispers echoed through the air. The investigator's face turned grim as she shared her findings with Ron. It seemed that Emily's spirit was trapped in the house, unable to find peace. Driven by a newfound sense of responsibility, Ron decided to delve deeper into Emily's story. He discovered that she had been an aspiring artist, and her drawings and paintings were scattered throughout the basement. As he examined her artwork, he felt a connection to the lost soul. Ron became determined to help Emily find the closure she desperately needed. Little did Ron know that his quest for answers would unravel a series of chilling events that would challenge his sanity and push the boundaries between the living and the dead. The basement, once a place of mystery, would become the battleground for a confrontation with the supernatural forces that had gripped the house for decades. Kevin and his wife, Emily, Moved into their new home, the quaint charm of the old house excited them. It had character, a history that whispered through its creaking floorboards and aged walls. Little did they know, however, that beneath the surface, something sinister lurked in the shadows of the basement. As autumn leaves painted the neighborhood in hues of red and gold, the young couple settled into their new life. Kevin worked long hours at the local engineering firm, while Emily dedicated her time to freelance writing. They reveled in the simple pleasures of domesticity, blissfully unaware of the ominous presence that awaited them below. One evening, Emily found an old photograph in a dusty corner of the basement. It depicted a family that had lived in the house decades ago. The children wore solemn expressions, and the parents seemed haunted by an unseen weight. Ignoring the uneasy feeling it stirred within her, Emily hung the photo on the wall as a nod to the house's history. As weeks passed, subtle signs emerged, whispers in the silence, shadows that danced in the corner of their eyes. Kevin dismissed them as figments of an overactive imagination, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Night after night, the unease grew, and the basement became a place both avoided and feared. One stormy night, as the wind howled through the eaves, Emily awoke to a distant sound, a rhythmic tapping that seemed to emanate from the bowels of the house. Alarmed, she woke Kevin, who attributed the noise to the storm. Reluctantly, they returned to sleep, but the tapping persisted, echoing through the house like a sinister heartbeat. The next morning, Kevin decided to investigate the source of the mysterious sound. Armed with a flashlight, he descended into the dimly lit basement, the air thick with the musty scent of age. As he explored the labyrinth of rooms, he stumbled upon a hidden door, a door that led to a forgotten chamber concealed behind a crumbling brick wall. In that hidden space, Kevin discovered a series of chilling photographs, images of the same family from the old picture, captured in moments of unspeakable horror. The basement had been witness to unthinkable acts, a silent accomplice to the malevolence that had unfolded within its confines. As Kevin pieced together the dark puzzle, the truth unraveled before him. The maniacal force that had terrorized the family in those photographs still lingered, hungry for new victims. The revelation shook Kevin to his core. Little did he know, the malevolent spirit had taken notice of his intrusion, and the boundaries between the living and the dead began to blur. As Kevin stood in the basement, his hands trembling, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. A chill ran down his spine as the shadows danced in macabre celebration. Unbeknownst to him, the malevolent force that had tormented the family in the photographs had awakened from its dormant state, hungry for the fear that pulsed through Kevin's veins. Upstairs, Emily sensed a change in the atmosphere. The air became charged with an otherworldly energy, and the unease that had plagued her for weeks intensified. Determined to find the source, she ventured into the basement, where the dim light barely illuminated the haunting history hidden within the walls. As Kevin and Emily cautiously explored the chilling depths of the basement, whispers echoed through the air, voices of anguish and despair, a spectral chorus of the tormented souls trapped within the house. The malevolent force, now awakened, reveled in the fear it instilled in the unsuspecting couple. Days turned into nights, and the once warm home became a battleground between the living and the malevolent entity. The couple's once joyful existence crumbled as shadows clung to their every step, and the unseen threat manifested in increasingly tangible ways. Kevin's sleep became haunted by nightmares, each night more vivid and horrifying than the last. He saw the faces of the tormented family, their accusing eyes drilling into his soul. Emily, too, felt the weight of an invisible presence, a force that sought to break their spirits and consume their sanity. Desperation drove Kevin to seek help. He delved into the history of the house, uncovering a tragic tale of a deranged individual who had once inhabited the space. Driven by madness, the man had committed unspeakable acts against his own family in the very basement that now held Kevin and Emily captive. Armed with this grim knowledge, Kevin sought the guidance of a local paranormal investigator. Together, they conducted seances, attempting to communicate with the lingering spirits that clung to the house like ethereal chains. The basement, once a symbol of shelter and security, became the epicenter of the supernatural storm that engulfed the couple's lives. The malevolent force, now fully awakened, fought back against the intrusion, manifesting its rage in poltergeist-like phenomena. Furniture moved of its own accord, chilling whispers filled the air, and unseen hands left icy imprints on the couple's flesh. The investigator, too, began to question the limits of his understanding as the paranormal activity escalated beyond his control. In their quest for resolution, Kevin and Emily stumbled upon a weathered diary hidden in the depths of the basement. The diary belonged to the tormented soul who had once inhabited the house. Its pages chronicled a descent into madness, recounting the man's twisted justifications for the atrocities he had committed against his own flesh and blood. As they delved deeper into the diary, the malevolent force intensified its assault, determined to silence the living and perpetuate the cycle of suffering. The basement, once a sanctuary for the darkest secrets, became a battleground where the sins of the past clashed with the hopes of the present. Armed with the knowledge from the diary, Kevin and Emily confronted the paranormal investigator. The sinister force feeding off their fear seemed to mock their efforts, throwing objects and casting shadows that danced with malicious glee. The investigator, though seasoned in his craft, appeared unnerved, his confidence waning in the face of an ancient malevolence. In a desperate attempt to sever the ties that bound the malevolent force to the house, the trio conducted a ritual that required them to revisit the darkest corners of the basement and confront the residual echoes of the past. As they recited incantations and called upon the spirits, the air crackled with tension and the temperature plummeted to an icy low. The basement became a battleground between the living and the dead. Apparitions of the tormented family materialized, their spectral forms writhing in agony. The malevolent force, now a swirling vortex of darkness, fought to maintain its grip on the house, unwilling to release the tortured souls trapped within its walls. As the ritual reached its climax, Kevin and Emily felt an otherworldly presence enveloping them. The air became charged with a palpable energy, and the basement seemed to pulsate with a malevolent heartbeat. The investigator, his face etched with determination, pressed on, guiding the couple through the final steps of the ritual. In a moment of intense connection with the spirits, the truth unraveled like a tapestry of suffering. The malevolent force, once a man consumed by madness, lashed out against the living, perpetuating a cycle of horror that transcended the boundaries of life and death. As Kevin and Emily faced the tortured spirits head-on, a profound understanding washed over them. The only way to break the cycle was to confront the source of the malevolence. In a surge of courage, Kevin descended further into the basement, guided by the spectral whispers that echoed through the labyrinthine corridors. There, in the darkest recesses of the house, he confronted the apparition of the deranged man. The malevolent force, now taking on a twisted, ethereal form, recoiled at the sight of Kevin's unwavering determination. A battle of wills ensued, with Kevin confronting the malevolent entity with the weight of the family's suffering. The basement, once a place of horror, became a crucible of redemption. The tormented spirits, caught in the crossfire, yearned for release, their anguished cries echoing through the chamber. In a final act of defiance, Kevin uttered words of forgiveness, breaking the chains that bound the malevolent force to the house. The basement, once a realm of darkness, was bathed in a blinding light as the spirits ascended to the afterlife, leaving behind a profound stillness. Exhausted but victorious, Kevin emerged from the basement, the weight of the past lifted from his shoulders. The house, now freed from the malevolent force, stood silent, its walls no longer haunted by the sins of a bygone era. As Kevin and Emily rebuilt their lives, the memory of the basement lingered, a testament to the enduring power of forgiveness and the ability of the human spirit to overcome the darkest of horrors. The old house, once a symbol of fear, became a haven of resilience, a place where the echoes of the past were replaced by the promise of a brighter future.